No, listen, I've just heard the rumour that he's obviously potentially could stay.
Who told you the rumour?
I'm not going to tell you that. Ask Gordon. He knows better than anyone. You don't reveal your sources.
Changed.
You
Proper
never reveal your
journalist now,
sources,
yeah.
do you?
You're gone.
Nah, I don't reveal. All right, Jack, I'll text you afterwards. Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah, but it's a good source, Benny. This is the thing, right? And I can tell that you're not having a carry on here. It's not the voices in your head telling you this. It's somebody in the know.
It's someone in the know, yeah. And even if it's someone who's quite close to the not even the situation, but just knows of what's going on. So he just obviously told me, and I thought, okay, fair enough. But can I still see that happening? Even when I first got told it, I was a little bit like, no chance. Like, why would he do that? Look at Manchester City right now. Look like they're going to win the league. Well, I think they will win the league. One of the best sides in Europe. Why would you not want to be part of that? But listen, it's what happens if Manchester City potentially have got their eyes set on somebody else. Then what can you do, really? But
just before we get Jack in on this, Benty, and I hope you don't mind me doing this jigsaw identification thing on your source, right? Is your source somebody that's a player, an agent, or involved in the business of football or journalism? Can you give me one of the four?
I cannot reveal my sources.
I tried my best. I just asked that because I've been tripped up with it. Jack, what do you think? You know, would it be listen? Antonio Conte seems to have had an immediate response from the players, and things look very different at the Lane, which I know is difficult for you to talk about. But there has been a turn in fortunes, which might just persuade him to
Listen, one thing I will say is, if Harry Kane went in tomorrow and said, "I want a new contract," they're going to give him a new contract. He's got that pull, and he's the captain. He's the best player. He's the one who everything goes through. Do I think he'll sign a new deal? Well, if he does sign a new deal, then I can't see him ever leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, they might put a release clause in there for 100 million. What is he, 28? Is someone going to go and pay 100 million for 28, 29-year-old?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Jack, because we were having a conversation about release clauses. I think Ferran Torres at Barcelona was something like 800 million. And I think Barcelona do that as a matter of principle, don't they, with a lot of their young players. But the conversation we were going to suggest to you was, what figure do you put on the release clause if he does, as Benty's sources are telling him, sign a new contract at Spurs?
Well, what you got to think about is if someone was to come in and buy him in January, what would Tottenham accept? 100, 150?
Well, Jack Grealish went for 100 million. So is that kind of a benchmark now, do you think? Because he's going to have to be the most expensive player in English football, Benty,
yeah,
right?
I think so. I think for January buyout clause, if he was to sign one recently, you'd have to say probably about 150 would be the buyout clause, because he can still sign a new contract. But if he gets a release clause in there, it doesn't really affect things too much, because if there's a figure there that's in mind for Spurs and for Harry Kane, and a team's willing to pay that, like if it was 150 million and Manchester City would then to say, well, you know what, we'll pay that, then both parties win. He's obviously signed a new contract, but the club have got the valuation of the player. Yeah. So I think by putting, that's the biggest thing that he'd have to have in there. If he was to sign one, the biggest thing that's got to be put in there is a release clause, because then you don't have this whole circus that we've just had in the summer.
Has he not got a release clause now in his deal?
I think he does, doesn't he? I think that was the whole conversation in the summer, wasn't it, to get to the...
I don't think there ever was one, because if there was any kind of release clause on there, surely Manchester City would have just paid the money and forgot all the kind of circus. But I don't even think there was a figure. There
was a gentleman's agreement, wasn't there?
Yeah. How long has he got left?
I heard things from
his current deal.
I don't know how he's... Is it 3 years left?
Must be 3-4 years.
It's a long time, because I remember he signed a 6-year deal, I think it was, with Levy about 2 or 3 years ago. So he's got a long road to run with that. Jack, please tell me if you think this is a daft question, but is this the most important contract of Harry Kane's career, this one? Because if he does just, like you say, become a one-club man and stick with Spurs, he has to have some silverware if he commits, doesn't he? Because he could spend the rest of his life a very wealthy man, but with a lot of regret. Well,
he's going to spend the rest of his life a very wealthy man regardless, isn't he? And true. I don't think he's the type of player or character who would worry about that, because he's going to get big money at Tottenham or wherever he goes. But as you said, he might finish his career without a trophy. Are Tottenham going to win the league in the next 5 years? Probably not. They might win the FA Cup or something like that, but is that enough for Harry Kane?
That's such a tough
he's definitely
question,
not. He's definitely not motivated by. He's not motivated by money.
No.
I think you could see that. But I think when you hear him speak and he talks about Spurs and Manchester City, you can see there is that burning desire. That he's won all the individual accolades. He's won World Cup Golden Boots, Premier League Golden Boots. I mean, last season assists and the Golden Boot. So he's done all of that. But when he wants to look back at, obviously, as a team kind of aspect, you can see that burning desire to win the biggest trophies, the Champions League, the Premier League. He wants to win them type of trophies. So it's going to be a really interesting one.
Let's have a look at it another way then. I remember being given a book when I got a job as an editor, right? It was called The First 90 Days. And it's the things you have to do in the first 90 days of your job. So put yourself in that position if you're Antonio Conte. Number one on his list has to be get Harry Kane completely on board with this project. Because if he's banging goals in, that brings success to Conte and makes him, again, a hugely successful manager.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, only a fool wouldn't get on board with what Antonio Conte could do with a club. Everyone at Tottenham will know the clubs he's been at, what he's done at the previous clubs. It wouldn't have taken long before the players started to see what he wanted from them in terms of training, style of play, and I think we're starting to see that now. So I think Harry Kane is the type as well who would be close to a manager.
Yeah.
He would be talking to him. He'd be sort of the link between the dressing room and the manager.
He's your manager on the pitch, kind of.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's a leader, and he's a natural leader. And I think that he would never had a problem with Harry Kane buying into it.
Do you think that is top of his list then? Because there are obviously a lot of things for him to consider at Spurs at the moment. But, you know, if he is under, another 2 or 3 years to go in this contract, maybe it isn't the top priority for him. It could be another distraction. And it looks like he was massively unsettled after the summer.
Yeah, I don't think Conte will be worrying about the next 4 or 5 years. And I don't think he'd have thought that in his first month or two, however long he's been there. It would be getting everyone on board, and just making them see his style of play. And he's done that, and I think they're all on board. Harry's definitely on board, and then maybe now he can start to worry about, you know, his future or whatever. But I don't think that would have been in his mind.
Do you know what? I think one thing Conte will want, and I think he'll get it, is clarity. I don't think that was unfair on Nuno. He came into a job which a lot of people didn't think he was ready for. He was, do I have Harry Kane? Do I not? What am I doing with him? I think Conte, he's a world-class manager, won some of the biggest trophies out there. I think he would demand some kind of clarity. Are we selling him or are we keeping him? Well, I need to know now because I need to plan further ahead.